what you compare this with. So for you all that are building your mortgage protection and final expense, you know that Medico covers a lot of things that can help keep those premiums in place, just by covering the client in case of any unexpected bills. And one of those diagnoses around cancer could, in fact, have an impact on the life insurance premiums that are paid within that household. For those of you that are stretching out a little bit further and you've gotten your AHIP certification, or you're out selling the Medicare supplements, which you only have to have a health license to do with Medico or any other carrier that you have that's available, you should be offering the first diagnosis cancer plan, because the statistic will tell you that they are going to be diagnosed with internal cancer or malignant melanoma. Or if you have even expanded further and you work in that group coverage or in that ACA arena, or you are sitting down with clients that fall into that, definitely offer them the first diagnosis cancer to help solidify your premiums that are there, and to make sure that if they get diagnosed, that they're not going to have any outstanding debt, or it will at least help pay for their treatments, because again, they are the statistic. So I gamble. We were talking about Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So here are the odds. 1 in 4 chances to report a home fire in the lifetime of owning a home. So let's say, for instance, you're one of those fortunate people that you're 25 years old and you buy your first house, and you're probably going to live in a home of some sort until you age off the planet. And let's just say the millennials, their life expectancy is almost up to the age of 80 at this point. So in the next 55 years, is that 55? Yeah, 55 years, you have 1 in 4 chance that you're actually going to file a claim for a fire in your home. The average person between the ages of 16 and the time that they get their driver's license yanked from them by their kids, right? So let's say, again, we'll talk about 80 years old, you're probably going to have anywhere between 3 to 4 car accidents in a lifetime. So the statistic is not that high in those years, right? Not in those years. For the term policies that you guys may be selling, the average claim is only 1 out of every 100. So 1% of the term policies that are being sold across the life insurance industry is 1 in 100. 1% are going to pay. But typically people take out a term policy to be able to cover debt, whether that's going to be around paying for college, whether that's going to be paying for a mortgage, whatever that might be for an unexpected death in that family, right? But the statistic will tell you that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women are going to develop an internal cancer of some form before they age off this planet. 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women. That's 50% or 33.3% for those of you that need the percentage. That's a really high percentage. And the thing with cancer is it doesn't care. It's coming after people, no matter what their age, no matter the color of their skin, no matter the, if they're female, male, or gender fluid. It doesn't matter how much money that they make, how little money that they make, whether they've had a new baby or they have grown kids or they've never had kids. It doesn't care. It's coming after us. And just to kind of further that a little bit, 80% of the diagnoses that happen are over the age of 55. So that's a lot of the people that you're talking to on a daily basis, the ones that you're calling today. So what is debt from cancer? 65% of people don't have sufficient income to cover treatment or related expenses. It's not the health care, it's the indirect expenses that come with the cancer diagnosis. 62% of people face medical debt after a treatment. Why? Because their health care doesn't pay for all of it. And the amount of money that people are paying for an entire year of radiation or chemotherapy, they could buy a house or a car with that money in a very short amount of time. So they're getting left with all of this medical debt. 55% of people had to withdraw from their savings or their investment accounts just to be able to help pay for that. What does that do? That sets either they have to work longer or they're going to have to retire on less. 50% of cancer survivors need financial support beyond their regular medical insurance. That's especially true considering a lot of people are going into more of the experimental treatment areas. You hear a lot of people that are traveling over to Europe and down to Mexico to receive some of the experimental treatments that the FDA just won't approve here. And then 37% of people report modifying work plans or delaying retirement. Has a lot to do with that third bullet point. And then 27% of cancer survivors report suffering a debt or bankruptcy. That's devastating to a household. Devastating to a household. It becomes even more devastating if that person passes away and leaves all this debt in their wake. So our plan really does one thing. If the policyholder gets diagnosed with an internal cancer or malignant melanoma, a tax-free lump sum check in the dollar amounts that you see here on the screen gets paid directly to the policyholder. We don't care how they use the money. They can help use that to pay the expenses or their bills that are happening within their home. They can use that money to take their family on a trip if they know that their diagnosis is terminal. They can use that in the experimental treatment that they may want. If they want to go to Mexico or want to go to Europe or want to go to wherever and receive some sort of healing, they can use it for that. We don't care. It's there for them to help cover the costs based on their diagnosis. And it's very simple to get approved. 99% of our cancer applications fall along the lines of issue, 99%. So if you want to add this just very simple language to your script, this is going to give you the opportunity to sell something. And remember that if you have more than one policy in a household, the likelihood of them staying or not being able to be infiltrated by another agent that comes knocking on their door is much higher, because you are now their true agent. 3 application questions. I'm going to show you them on the next screen, but just to kind of summarize, in the last 10 years, have you been diagnosed with an internal cancer or malignant melanoma? In the last 2 years, have you been advised for a test regarding a malignancy or an internal cancer? And then, of course, the HIV question. Again, 99% issue rate, and this does come with a couple discount. So whenever you're sitting in the household with Joe and Cindy, by all means, talk to them about the cancer plan, because if Joe and Cindy both apply for the cancer plan and they accept the issuance, they're going to get a 10% discount on those premiums. There's a 10-year look back, only a 10-year look back, which means that they can have been diagnosed and survived a cancer diagnosis 10 years prior, and this will still be able to be issued to your policyholder. And then there's no coordination of benefits. What does that mean? If they have our hospital indemnity plan with our lump sum cancer rider, that's okay, that's going to pay too. This is going to pay on top of anything else that they have that's out there that's going to cover them for a cancer diagnosis. So here on the screen, you're going to see exactly verbatim what the 3 application questions look like. So I'm going to pause here for just a second so you guys can read them. And then this is where the product is sold. So all the states that you see here in blue, so Stephen that's up there in Washington, congratulations, because this is one of the plans that we do. He's coming back into the picture. He's like, I heard my name. This is available in Washington. We do have some products that's not available in Washington, but all of the states that you see here in blue, this is where you can offer a cancer plan. Someone may be in Virginia, and I know you guys have been waiting and waiting and waiting for a plan to be in Virginia, but at this time, the DOI doesn't like our plan just simply because it's a lump sum tax-free payout. So I'm going to pause right here, and I want to tell you a little story, because the cancer plan is not difficult to understand. What's difficult to understand is how a cancer diagnosis affects a family. So my next door neighbor, I'm going to leave their names off the table, but they're a little over the age of 60, and she has a daughter. They have a daughter that was 32 years old in 2018. And her and her husband, we'll name them Beth and Jim, okay? So Beth and Jim were having some trouble conceiving, and so they went through the IVF process, and one of the embryos were implanted, and they became pregnant with a baby girl. And Beth and Jim were planning on moving to South Carolina to be closer to his family during, like after the baby was born. But in the meantime, they own this really cool house. They sold it, and they ended up moving into the basement of her mother, which lives next door to me. So I get to watch Beth's pregnancy unfold. I get to talk to her. She's out walking the dogs at the same time I am. Very beautiful, vibrant young lady. And she gives birth to now her daughter. And about 8 weeks later, her and her husband, after her postpartum, they ended up moving to South Carolina to the land that they had bought. During that time, she was interviewing new OBGYNs because remember, they now have this other embryo that's sitting out there. So they're just trying to get through her postpartum, and then they're going to try to figure out when they want to implant their little boy. But during that time, she wasn't feeling so good. So when she went back to the doctor, it was about 10 weeks after their baby had been born, he ran some tests because she said she didn't feel like she wasn't recovering from pregnancy very much, and she was actually, her T cells were out of whack. So the doctor said, why don't you come back for some more testing? So at that time, she was diagnosed with a Ewing sarcoma. And if you know anything about a Ewing sarcoma, it's a soft tissue sarcoma that has a terminal rate. So there's 125 cases, viable cases of this type of sarcoma that are across the world, and there is only one survivor. So at that time, she decided that she wanted to come back and move back to Indiana, which is where I live in her parents' basement, to try to overcome some of this cancer diagnosis. She immediately lost her hair because she had to go through some very extensive radiation and chemotherapy, and really the radiation wasn't going to do anything for her. But really at this time, all she wanted to do was live long enough to see her baby grow up. Because remember, that baby was only 10 weeks old. So during 2019, I was watching Beth deteriorate. She lost a bunch of weight. She was a college cheerleader at one point. She was probably about 135 to 140 pounds. So she was a nice, thick girl and very healthy. And she lost weight. She was down to about 80 pounds at that time. She lost all of her hair, her eyebrows, her eyelashes, everything. And her husband continued to travel to and from Indiana to Cleveland Clinic because the chemotherapy treatments that she needed, they were able to perform, and she would be gone for about a week to 2 weeks at a time to get her port changed and have her drip. So in 2019, as I was watching all this stuff unfold, that cancer continued to move throughout her body, and by the end of 2019, in November, well, it was right around Halloween actually, it had moved into her pituitary vein and shot up to her brain. She ended up having 3 lesions on her brain the last time she went to the doctor, and at that time they said, you know, it'd probably be a good idea if you think about putting her into hospice. So they did, but still in the basement. On the Thursday before Thanksgiving, I was standing at my kitchen, eat up, and I have a direct window that goes right to their house, kind of like this thing that's over here on my right-hand side right now. And I can see my neighbor's front door. And the dogs were outside, and people were out there playing, and I didn't really know what was going on. I just thought that they were kind of like hanging out in the front yard because the dogs were out there. And I was talking to someone that's kind of in the same position as Ivy Wilson with NAA, and I said, wow, something must be going on at my neighbor's house. The next thing I know, they wheeled her out of the front door, covered in a burgundy sheet. She was 33 years old. She lasted 1 year from her cancer diagnosis. Her baby was 14 months old at that time. All she was trying to do was survive long enough to be able to embed a memory into her daughter's brain about her. But her daughter will have no memory of her. Cancer took her from that. So what is it that we're waiting on? Why are we not sharing this kind of information? Because that didn't happen to me. That happened next door, and that was really close, right? So talk to people. Tell them the stories that you know. They likely will have a story of their own. Ask them how cancer makes them feel. And if it makes them feel less than, because they know that it's going to be a statistic that's going to hit them or their friends or their family, or if it has already, this is the type of program that you need to start offering in every time you walk into a home, every time. So I got through that. without crying, because it's really hard for me to do. But if you want more information about our cancer plan, by all means, once you are contracted with Medico, go out and get all of the marketing materials through your Medico Information Center. That's your agent portal, and those forms and marketing materials are in there. So now you can have a piece of material that can talk about this in case you get choked up whenever you're explaining it too. And these are what some of those pieces look like. The one that's the second from the left is actually our highlight sheet, and I can send that out to Mike and Noel, and they can forward it out to everybody. It's just a very simple, easy, understandable policy, and I guarantee you, you will sell it. People want this, but you have to bring it up. And then, of course, how you enroll in that is through the My Enroller. For those of you that are already selling Great Western, you know how My Enroller works. You can use it anytime, anywhere. We're getting ready to do our next month's update so that all the forms, the rates, and the payment options are going to be up to date. Applications, you can do multiple applications at a time. So if you're writing a hospital indemnity, a med sup, our cancer plan, and you want to do 2 out of 3 of them, you can do them at the same time for your client. And of course, it offers the voice authorization, which is a short script. I say it's short because I talk really fast. So it takes me about 2.5 minutes to run through. For those of you that might have a little bit more of a Southern accent like Mike, might take you about 3 minutes to run through, but it's pretty simple to understand. And then of course with e-signature, you can do that either face-to-face or over the phone as well. Once you hit submit with one of those 2 signature options, it's going to bypass data entry and go directly down into Medico's underwriting. Policies then would get issued quicker, and then of course you would get paid sooner. And that is what I have for you today. So you're welcome. Need a shot of caffeine after this one because it could be, cancer is not good. It's not cool. Cancer is not cool. Until COVID, it was the C word as far as I'm concerned. Now I got another one, and that's COVID, because now I just want to get out with you guys, and we can't, we can't do it. So,
all right.
Are there any questions?
And for those people that have questions, you can open up your mic and ask them yourself. You can type them in the chat. You can text me. You can text Kelly, however you want to do that. And while we're waiting for some questions to surface, I'm going to just here's a quick call to action. So if you want to be part of the solution to cancer and help families to have tools to battle it when it strikes them, number one, make sure you got your health license. So if you don't have a health license, I'd be like, okay, what's holding you back? Get in a license coach, get your class, make the time, get it done during non-income producing hours. Like that's what you do from 9 p.m. to 9 or 8 a.m. It's not something you do in the middle of your dial day, right? So number one, get your class going. Number two, get contracted with Medico. If you're not contracted, go to NAAcontracting.com, get it done. Once you're appointed, get your My Enroller on your screen. And then if you've already got that and you've done that, I say, well, what's holding you back? And here's where, I've had some conversations. I had a conversation with an agent yesterday who's having a $20,000 month. He said, Mike, hey, how do I get better? He said, I was just with this client. And I said, great. I said, how many people so far yesterday had you identified the secondary sale or the secondary need to go back to? And he said, Mike, I haven't. I said, well, what about this last one? He said, well, everything was kind of tight financially for them. I said, well, that's exactly who we serve, are the people that are financially tight, because if something like cancer or hospitalization or some of the medical thing hits them, it's going to be a mess. And sometimes we can actually save them money, especially if we're in the Medicare Advantage world. And if you're talking to Ivy or Megan and looking at their whole picture and looking at, hey, as you become certified, there might be ways that they can save money by truly evaluating, are they better off and going to have lower out-of-pocket costs with a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan or a different Medicare Advantage plan? What's going to help them the best when they have these costs? And you'd be surprised at how often just some slick selling person that had access to one product was just selling what they had. They were a product pusher, not a solution provider. And we're solution providers. and we've got the tools to be solution providers, but we've got to take that time in the home to slow down and think after we've got the lifestyle taken care of, what's next? How are we going to serve them next? It's a free lead for you when you do that. And people say, well, what's Megan Wood doing that I'm not doing? She's slowing down to think about that next item and identifying that and then creating a plan in her mind to have that conversation now or on the next appointment or to call for that next item. And that's exactly what she's doing. So I would just tell people that's, if you want to be part of that solution, that's your next phase, is slow down on your lifestyle and make this part of things. And if you're somebody that's coaching an agent and an agent comes out of the sale and they're all excited, give them a high five, pat them on the back, pat her on the back, and then say, by the way, did you identify the next need? Did you talk about a cancer plan, a hospital indemnity plan, or Medicare Advantage plan? And it's our job as coaches to remind, or even as buddies, to remind each other, not just get caught up on the celebration, but are we making ourselves better and truly serving families as much as we can? That's, if there's one thing I want people to hear from that, that's the biggest piece. All right. Question. Somebody sent me a question privately. They said, in Florida, does a 215 license cover the cancer policy? Yes, I know that in Florida that the Series 215 is life and health. However, I know, Kelly, that the Medico was not, of the cancer policy, was not approved in Florida, if I saw that screen correctly.
Correct.
So Medico's not. We have some other carriers that do, which we can help you out with for the person asking that question. But yes, you do have the license to access these other health products. Okay, what other questions are there for Kelly? I've got a couple. I've got one here. Somebody texted me and said, Mike, if I have a client that has the accelerated living benefit on a term or UL policy, say with Foresters for the critical illness policy, and they make the claim on the critical illness rider, can they also make the claim on the Medico, or is any conflict there?
Nope. Non-coordinated, no conflict.
Okay. So they
So what
have
that means is, when I say that, right, they can collect both. So what that means is non-coordinated means that the policy isn't like one's not going to supersede the other. So if they're going to claim against their accelerated benefits, they can also claim the lump sum cancer as well. Now, what I would say to you as a sales concept is have them claim against their cancer policy first, because you want to make sure that their life insurance stays intact. What you've done is you've sold them a life insurance policy with a death benefit that they're expecting. So if they accelerate their death benefit, let's say, for instance, that life insurance face value obviously drops at the time that those benefits are accelerated, and they can't be brought back up, not unless it's an equity life insurance policy. And if you don't understand what that means, Mike over here can kind of help you out with that. So what I would tell you to do is put both of them in the house. I would have the policyholder file the claim against the cancer policy first, and then deplete those funds as needed, and then go to the accelerated benefit option.
There you go. I think that's a powerful point right there. That's big. Okay. What other questions do we have for Kelly on the cancer product? What other stuff? I'm curious. And I always want to check on this because you hear cancer, and I know that we know folks can get approved on life insurance if they've had the basal cell carcinoma. So I'm curious, how do y'all treat a basal cell carcinoma on this cancer plan?
So basal cell carcinoma is not considered an internal cancer. So I'm going to go back a little bit further. So a BCC is not considered an internal cancer or malignant melanoma. So we're looking specifically for the cancers that are actually on the screen. That's the reason why they're knockout questions or knockout classifications. So basal cell actually would not be covered under this plan. My husband had basal cell carcinoma removed off of his face in 2017, I think. It's a pretty, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's pretty invasive surgery, but it is not the type of diagnosis that would, somebody's not going to pass from a BCC. It does, however, include carcinoma in situ, which are the encapsulated type of tumors that you would find in breast cancer and also prostate cancer. So this would cover that type of cancer.
Okay. Brian Beasley said, I just wrote a policy on myself during this call.
Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you. Wow.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, if there's anybody here that's written any of the hospital indemnity plans or taken some other steps, feel free to post in the chat since Monday. I know somebody had written 2 on Monday. I forget who that was now. Might have been Chris Manifold, but I'm trying to remember who it was. Somebody wrote a couple on Tuesday. And I think I've heard of a couple others that have been written since Monday. So I know they're out there, but for those, if you know that, feel free to let Kelly know. We want to continue to celebrate that and get the habit of thinking about it. You're going to get what you expect. Claims process. Talk to me about the claims process. So they've got a cancer diagnosis, whatever the situation is. Walk us through, again, the ease or how the claims process works with y'all.
Sure. The claims process for a cancer plan is very simple. We just need to have the date of their diagnosis and the diagnosis, which is what comes from the medical provider. So once they go to their physician and that has been, it has to be a formal diagnosis. All they would need to do is pull their claim form off of the internet. So I should say off of their policyholder portal, or you as the agent can help them do that because the claim forms are also out on your medical information center portal, and then file not only the claim form, but also the diagnosis. We need to have all of the medical codes. Once that has been given to us and has been proven, because then at that point we're going to pull the medical record, everything, the check is cut and sent to the client. There is no restoration of benefit on this particular program. So once the policy pays out, it's depleted. There's no more premiums. There's no more benefit. So once it's been paid, it's paid out, and it's paid in a full lump sum. There's not partial payments.
Okay. And then, so they can issue it through 79. And then how long does the policy stay in force?
Policy will stay in force until that person passes away.
Okay. Got it.
So, yep, and basically until premiums are no longer paid. And just to kind of give you an idea too, not only to 79, but you can sell it down to the age of 18. And I've run some numbers just because that's what I do for you all, right? So an 18-year-old male in the state of Indiana is $8 a month. That's $96 a year. If you multiply that by 40 years, right, I think you're right around $4,800 in premium for a $15,000 lump sum policy. It's going to obviously they're going to come out better than what they're putting the premiums in for. So a lot of times we hear, well, I don't want to pay for something that I might not use. Well, that's true, but in a smaller dollar amount and with the statistic that we have that's out there, it's likely going to cover it. For a 65-year-old female in the state of Iowa, that is roughly, for a $15,000 lump sum, is roughly about $35 a month. So it's still very affordable. You're talking, $480, less than $500 a year to be covered. And start up little if you want to, but go give them something. They need something.
Yeah. And just a reminder, the more touches you have with your client, the more you serve, the more that they will view you as you are their agent. Now, we use the Molly Bolt analogy. For those that know what a Molly Bolt is, that's when you're trying to get a bolt into, say, a piece of wood, a piece of plywood, and you know that you need it to stick to that wood, but you can't get your hand to the other side because it's a closed-in wall. So you might use a Molly Bolt in a piece of sheetrock you're putting into, and you need that bolt to hold some weight. You push it in, and there's a piece that once it comes to the other side, it expands, and it spreads out. So that bolt ain't going anywhere. So it's like once you get into a client's home, it's spread out. So you ain't going nowhere. And you become their full service agent for anything that's life, health, and annuity related. And now, just with other products we've got, debt elimination, other tools that we have at our disposal, you become their financial person in a lot of ways. Maybe we're not touching homeowners and auto, but that's okay. We're touching these others, and we're doing a great job at it and just continuing that process. So those are big things. All right. Let's see. Do I have another question? I'm checking here. Is there a quoting tool? Was a quick question, Kelly.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, the quoting tool that we recommend is also the application tool with My Enroller. But if you would like the quoting tool on its own, which is something that you can do on your phone, the application you can't write on your phone. You have to do that through the My Enroller. But the quoting tool is Quick Quote. That's QUICKQUOTE. .myenroller.com. And what I can do is I can put that in the chat box.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be better.
All righty.
And I have another one. Awesome.
Gabriella Gartman, who's down in Houston, and they dodged a bullet here with a storm today, but she said she wrote a hospital indemnity and a first diagnosis cancer last week for the first time. So she's excited. She said both of them have been already approved, so she is grateful. This is Gabriella.
That's awesome. For some reason, my chat box has been, it's inactive. That's what it says, which is weird because I can see everybody. I just can't put anything in there. So I'm going to put it in the Q&A box. Can everybody see the Q&A box? Oh, no, it's not there.
Type it in if I've got it right. You said it's quickquote.myenroller.com?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I've posted it there for those who want to grab it. All right. So we'll hit on that.
And you can quote off of your, it's a great little tool because you can quote off of your phone. So like you pull up your, I use an iPhone, so you pull up Safari, type in quickquote.myenroller.com, and the quoting tool will come up right there. It's smart, just like the My Enroller. You cannot quote something that's not available. So like in the state of Florida, if you were trying to quote cancer, it's not going to come up in the state of Florida off the quick quote. The other part too is what I've done on my phone is, you know, that little square piece with the little arrow that kind of comes up and it says add to home screen. So I've actually added it. It's not an app, but it takes me to, it kind of gives me a tile on my phone. So all I have to do is touch the tile and it automatically appears in Safari for me. So I do actually a lot of quoting that way, especially if I'm on a Zoom call, things like that. I can do a quote real quick.
Okay, that's good to know. That's powerful. All right, well, we're coming up on 3. Kelly, again,